Ceddanne Rafaela was the hero for the Boston Red Sox on Wednesday, proving once again why he's unmovable for the Boston Red Sox.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby Maljanian, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I'm here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed, and it's completely free. So you might as well continue to tune in because Locked On is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later on in today's show, but what a roller coaster of a game for the Red Sox yesterday, recording an 11-9 walk-off win against the Angels to avoid getting swept at home. The Red Sox now sit at 30-34 on the season, and just when things were really bleak, they decided we cannot afford to lose this baseball game, and that was exactly correct. They could not afford to get swept by the Angels at home. And I would say let's hope they keep the momentum going, but every time they've won a game, they have been unable to keep that momentum going. They'll maybe win a couple in a row, but then they'll fall back into a losing streak, and they just don't know how to be consistent. And it's been really frustrating, but on today's show, I'm going to be talking about the hero of that game in Ceddanne Rafaela, as well as Abraham Toro's hot bat and why pitching is still a concern for this team. Now, Ceddanne Rafaela is a guy who very much last season struggled to put together quality at bats. His chase percentage was just in the first percentile, so very, very poor. He was always chasing at pitches outside the strike zone. His K percentage was in the 22nd percentile, so also considered poor. He was just striking out a lot because of that swing selection, and he was being overly aggressive for a lot of his at-bats, and it was leading to him striking out because he wasn't swinging at good pitches. And that was a concern for him even when he was a prospect before he came up to the majors, was that he does have plus bat speed, but that his aggressive approach was something that needed fine-tuning and was hurting him a lot. And that is something that in 2024 was very much a concern when it came to him at the plate, and it almost felt like he was an automatic out. And his walk percentage in the 2024 season was also very low, just in the first percentile, and he wasn't really able to make a lot of hard contact. Now, obviously, his defense was a different story. Arm strength was in the 94th percentile, and he's also super fast. His sprint speed was in the 87th percentile, so those are both very high. So his defense and his speed are both pluses to Ceddanne Rafaela's game. Now, you take the weak bat last year and you say, okay, this is very frustrating because he provides really impactful defense and he's a threat to steal bases whenever he's on base. But the problem is that he just can't hit. Now, he was determined to change that narrative, and going into 2025, he has grown in a lot of areas, particularly in that strikeout percentage. He's now in the 61st percentile for strikeout percentage as opposed to the 22nd percentile last year. So he has taken leaps and bounds in terms of cutting down on the strikeouts, and that's been seriously something that has allowed him to be a lot more productive at the plate. His walk percentage is up to 12%, so he obviously still doesn't take a ton of walks. That's something that he still needs to work on in his game, but he is being more patient at the plate now than he did a season ago, which is really promising. His chase percentage is still an issue, still in the second percentile there, up from 1% last year. So hasn't really taken a huge stride in that category. And that's definitely something that I've noticed overall with his plate appearances right now is, yes, he's being a little bit more patient when it comes to his swing selection, but he's still getting fooled and swinging at some pitches that he shouldn't. And that's something that has been holding him back at the plate. Now, when you take his overall performance and what he does to bring to the game. Now, he provides the defense, which is exceptional in center field. He provides the speed, and we all know how important it is to have speed on your roster, because when these guys get on base, you want them to be able to rattle the opposing pitchers. And in order to do that, you have to be able to be aggressive when it comes to trying to run when you're on base. And that's something that Rafaela has always provided. But the confidence wasn't always there offensively. And now he definitely hits with a little bit more confidence. And it certainly came to play in yesterday's roller coaster of a game, because in that game, he did go 1 for 5, but the hit that we got was a big one from him, because he recorded a game-winning walk-off 2-run home run in the bottom of the 9th inning that barely squeaked over the pesky pole. And it actually broke a record at 308 feet, the shortest walk-off home run on record at Fenway Park. And it's crazy to think about that, because we always have known that that was a short wall over there in right field. If it sneaks over the pesky pole, it counts as a home run. It had an exit velocity of 94 miles an hour. So obviously not the strongest home run that was hit, but that's the benefit of playing at Fenway Park. And you have the pesky pole there. That's a gift. And it did break a record. And it came at a really opportune time when the Red Sox were just continuing to battle in a game that they really just could not stand to lose. The homer ended up being the shortest by a Red Sox player at Fenway since StatCast started tracking them in 2015. Perhaps even more interestingly than that, it was the shortest walk-off homer by any MLB player in the StatCast era. And Rafaela afterwards talked about the home run a little bit, and he was saying, I was like, if it's fair, it's gone. So I was hoping it stayed fair. I was really happy because we grinded today. To win this game was huge for us. I was really happy. And that's so true. Another close loss would have been really hard to stomach against this Angels team that really is not much of a threat. So this came at a time when the Red Sox needed it the most. And Rafaela was so elated about it. And this is exactly what I mean about Ceddanne, because last year I kept saying, well, he has the defense and he has the speed. He's just really missing that offensive prowess at the plate. And he's nowhere close right now to being one of the best hitters on the team. He's not even a guy who is somebody that I can trust to come through every time. But I do trust him more now than I did last year by a pretty wide margin, because he's just putting together a lot better at bats than we had seen from him in the past. And that was a goal that he had set out for himself going into this season, was trying to improve his patience at the plate. And there's nothing wrong with being aggressive when you feel like it's your pitch. But the problem was him being too swing happy last year, that he was swinging and missing at a ton of pitches because they were completely off the plate. He's cut down on that a little bit. Obviously still needs work offensively. I'm not saying that he's some superstar when it comes to his offense, but right now he is currently batting .252 with a .296 on base percentage and .411 slugging. So average, but he's definitely come a long way in certain areas of his offensive game. And if he continues to grow in that way, continues to cut down on that chase percentage a little bit, he really will be a super valuable player. And I still don't feel like he's somebody who it would make sense for the Red Sox to trade just because of the versatility he provides. If they want to move him out of the outfield full time and make him more of a utility guy, that's fine. But he does need to be on the Red Sox roster because he provides a little bit more in terms of versatility than some other players on this roster do. So get that chase percentage improved, and then I really think he's going to be truly locked in as a good hitter for the Boston Red Sox, because he's not in that good category yet. He's still in the average category, but he was below average in a lot of those areas last season. So it's certainly promising, and he's certainly stepping up in the right direction. So hopefully that continues for him. But coming up, I'm going to be talking about another hot bat in the Red Sox lineup and what he has done to make a difference, and that's Abraham Toro. My husband loves FanDuel. It's his favorite app that he uses. And it's actually funny because every morning it's part of his daily routine where he goes and he casts his bets for the day, whether that's on basketball or baseball. He goes through and he makes spreadsheets and he sits down and figures out what games are going on that day. And he says, all right, I'm going to bet on, this NBA Finals game, but I'm also going to bet on this Red Sox Angels game, for example. I'm going to bet on Trout to get an extra base hit, for example. So he takes it really seriously, but because of that, he's won tons of money on it. And that can be you if you want to get into sports betting, is head to FanDuel today. New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. You can win lots and lots of money by betting on sports on FanDuel. I've seen it firsthand. You could be the next one. In dramatic fashion, the Boston Red Sox beat the Angels yesterday by a score of 11-9. And when I say it was a dramatic game, it really was a lot of back and forth and lots of people who were hitting for both teams. The Red Sox and Angels both recorded 12 hits in the game. The Angels had 2 errors, whereas the Red Sox had 1 error. And the Red Sox ended up winning 11-9. And lots of people got in on the action when it came to recording hits, Abraham Toro being one of them, who went 2 for 4 in the game and driving in 2 runs. He's now batting .304 with a .310 on base percentage and .493 slugging. Now, here's the thing about Toro is his major league career in terms of stats have not always been very eye-popping. He hasn't really been a guy who has ever been a stud at the major league level. He's always kind of floated into the background a little bit and hasn't always put together quality at bats. But when I saw him play in Worcester this year for the Woo Sox, he was putting together some really impressive plate appearances, very disciplined at the plate, was swinging at the right pitches, and was driving in lots of runs for the Woo Sox. So I was curious to see how that would translate over to this Boston Red Sox team. And so far, it absolutely has translated. In his last 12 games that he's played in, he's made 40 plate appearances, with 39 of those being at bats. He scored 6 runs and recorded 14 hits, 3 doubles, 0 triples, but 2 home runs with 4 RBIs in 1 walk. The biggest thing is in those games, even though he struck out 7 times, he's batting .359 with a .375 on base percentage and .590 slugging and a .965 OPS. So he has been on fire when it comes to recording hits and putting together productive at-bats to get himself on base. Now, the interesting thing with Toro is that he is raking against right-handed pitching, and it is lower against lefties, but it's really not as bad as it could be, because some hitters are absolutely putrid against lefties, just cannot hit them at all. But we haven't found that to be the case with Toro. Versus lefties, he's hitting .250 compared to versus righties, he's hitting .302. His on-base percentage, though, against lefties is actually a little bit higher at .308 compared to a .302 on-base percentage versus righties, which is really fascinating and intriguing, but there's not a huge drop-off either way. Versus right-handed pitching, when he's batting right-handed, he's batting 1,000 right now, whereas versus right-handed pitching as a left-handed batter, .288 batting average. So obviously there's a huge drop-off there as well, but overall, generally, he's been able to hit well against righties and lefties. At home, he's batting .278, and on the road, he's batting .310. Why are these numbers important? Because with the Red Sox and their struggles over the last couple seasons to win at home, there were a lot of players who significantly had a drop-off at home and just couldn't hit nearly as effectively. Whereas with Toro, we haven't really seen that. We've seen him kind of almost split at home and away. Obviously not dead even, because his batting average is still higher on the road than it is at home, but it's not as bad of a drop-off as it could be. Definitely would like to see that home batting average go up a little bit, but I'm not saying it's putrid to the fact that it's super detrimental. Now, because Toro's bat has been really hot the Red Sox have made it clear that they want to continue to leave him in the lineup. Now, that's why for the first 2 games of the series against the Angels, Marcelo Meyer wasn't in the lineup because they had Abraham Toro playing third base and Romy Gonzalez playing first base. And then in the series finale on Wednesday, Marcelo Meyer was back in the lineup at third base, and then Toro was playing first. He ended up moving over to third base late in the game because Romy Gonzalez came in to pinch hit for Toro, but he has played third a lot in his career. It's his natural position, so it made sense for the Red Sox to scoot him over there when they wanted to make sure he was still in the lineup. So that's something I do expect to continue to see because he is the type of guy who can really help the bottom half of this lineup if they really are struggling offensively, because you have certain guys who are on hot streaks, and those are the guys who you're going to have to depend on to come through. And you have a guy like David Hamilton, who actually had a good game yesterday, going 2 for 3 in the game with 2 RBIs. But typically Hamilton and then also Christian Campbell have been struggling at the plate. So those are guys that you can't rely on as much. But if you have Toro and Rafaela in the bottom half of the lineup and they're both hitting well, that helps you to feel like 6 through 9 in the order are not automatic outs, which is a difference from what we've seen over the last couple seasons, because in 2023 and 2024, a lot of times you felt like, oh, wow, once you hit the number 6 spot in the order, it's basically automatic outs from there. And I don't find that to be the case with the way that Rafaela and Toro are hitting. Now, again, obviously, like I said about Rafaela, he's not the best hitter in the lineup, and he's really not a great hitter still, but he has shown improvements. Abraham Toro is on a hot streak. Will that hot streak continue? It's hard to say. Maybe not. I have seen trends throughout the course of his career in which he's gone on a hot streak for a month or so and then he's fallen back. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happens to where he cools down and he ends up kind of getting back to reality a little bit of the type of hitter that he actually is. And if that does happen, then maybe the Red Sox do continue to rotate more with Romy and Meyer. But I do think for as long as he is hitting well, the Red Sox are going to get him in their lineup. And it's been fun seeing the way that he has been able to portray himself at the plate as a confident hitter with a lot of power who can utilize all parts of the ballpark and come through when he needs to. When he is playing first base, he's hitting 321. When he's playing third base, he's batting just 143. So obviously the Red Sox might not want to put him at third base as consistently as they kind of made it out to be. Obviously, his main position now is first, and that's the plan moving forward, is for him to primarily play first base. But with Romy still being a factor, they also have to find ways to get him into the games as well. But I really like what Toro provides in terms of a lot of different aspects of his game, like the way that he is able to get himself to not swing and miss a lot, so he's not really striking out a lot. He could take more walks, and he definitely could cut down on his chase percentage, and his exit velocity could be a little bit better, but he isn't recording a ton of strikeouts, and he's sprinkling hits all across the field. A lot of his singles also have gone for infield hits this year, so he's been able to make it to first on those, which has been very good. But he's also hit singles and doubles to the deepest part of the ballpark as well. So he's really utilizing all aspects of the park and utilizing his strong, powerful bat to be able to make an impact in those capacities. So the thing that I like about Toro is not only that he now has the defensive flexibility of them being able to put him at third when needed, even though he is a first baseman for the Boston Red Sox, but the fact that he's also providing a bat that really has served as a saving grace as of late for the Red Sox lineup, especially a lineup that hasn't been able to score a lot in close games and can't seem to get that big hit a lot of the time, because he was also on base when Rafaela hit the walk-off home run yesterday. Don't let that get overshadowed, as Toro recorded a hit in that inning prior to Rafaela coming up and hitting the home run. So he, again, made an impact in that game and was on base because he had gotten a hit. And that's really good for this lineup right now, because it's been tough thinking about the first base situation without Tristan Casas and with him missing the entirety of the season, and even going on record and saying the other day that he's just dealing with the worst nightmare of his life, and that's really heartbreaking. But the fact that Toro has been able to step up at first base has been beyond huge for this Boston Red Sox team. So I'm hoping that he can continue to keep that up. But coming up, I'm going to be talking about the pitching, which is still a concern for the Boston Red Sox. Don't forget that you can subscribe to Locked On Red Sox on YouTube or any podcast platform. It is available Monday through Friday, wherever you get your podcasts. I am here. Just be prepared for my mood to be determined on how the Red Sox do. If they lose that day, I'll probably be angry. If they win that day, I'll probably be super excited. So to each their own, but that's what to be prepared for. If you listen to my show, hopefully you can relate if you are a Red Sox fan, and that's why you're here. But I will be here Monday through Friday on any podcast platform. You can also follow the show on Twitter at @LO_Red Sox, and we can chat there, or follow my personal Twitter at Gabby Maljanian, and we can discuss the Boston Red Sox. Also, I do appreciate you tuning into Locked On Red Sox and making it your first listen today. For your second listen, make sure you check out Locked On MLB Game Night, which is basically a show that goes through every game every single night and talks about what happened and the biggest moments in those games, so you can get your local analysis on a national scale without having to just look at the ESPN app and check everybody else's scores all the time. So make sure that you check out that show after you finish listening to this, because it's a bunch of experts from our network all coming together to talk about what happened in every game so that you can stay caught up, especially games that you miss because you're watching the Red Sox during that time. So make sure you check that out next. 11-9 was the final score of the Red Sox game yesterday. It was an absolutely wild game with lots of ups and downs. And while it's exciting that the Red Sox won it, and believe me, I'm ecstatic about that because thank God we didn't get swept, it still really brought to light how much of an issue the pitching is for this Boston Red Sox team. Lucas Giolito started the game and got absolutely rocked. He made it through just 1 2/3 innings, giving up 8 hits and 7 earned runs with 1 walk and 1 strikeout. He did give up a home run as well. His ERA is now up to a 6.42 on the season. He threw 43 pitches with 22 of them going for strikes. His fastball velo was at about 93 miles an hour, which I have talked about previously, that was something I was concerned about with him, was him getting that fastball velo up, because teams are going to feast all over that if he's not able to consistently throw that fastball a little bit faster. So then Luis Guerrero came in, who has been reliable for this Boston Red Sox team. He threw 2 1/3, giving up no hits and no runs with 2 walks and 1 strikeout. He has an 0.93 ERA for Boston. He's definitely somebody who's been pitching his way into a more permanent role in the Red Sox pen. I hope they keep him up in the majors and they're able to see his talent and they're able to say, okay, even though we have other players who might be returning from injuries at some point, he's somebody who has really helped our bullpen. So we should continue to give him a shot in the majors. And I would absolutely love that. I've always been a fan of Guerrero. Last year, even though it was a small sample size, when he was called up to the major league team, he showed a ton of potential in terms of his ability to pitch at the major league level. And I said, wow, I want to see more of him next year. So then he came into this year and he was working on a lot of things in AAA in terms of his arsenal, but he has a really strong arsenal right now and a slider that's absolutely dangerous that he used as a throwaway pitch in a couple different scenarios in yesterday's game. But he has a lot of pitches that he can throw, which makes him really successful. And he's doing it very effectively, really good eye for the strike zone, and just rarely loses his command. So obviously he did pick up the couple walks in the game, but nothing he couldn't get out of. He did get out of a jam to help the Red Sox stay in the game. Then Brennan Bernardino came in, who overall has been pretty reliable for the Red Sox this season. 1 inning, giving up 2 hits and 1 earned run. He is now on a 1.82 ERA on the season. I really like Bernie. Not his best outing. Obviously, he did give up the 1 run, but not anything that was super harmless. Then Justin Wilson came in, through 1 inning, and then gave up no runs with 2 strikeouts. So again, nothing that caused a lot of harm in his outing either. He's up to a 2.25 ERA now on the season. Garrett Whitlock came in and got the job done. 1 inning, 0 hits, 0 earned runs with 2 strikeouts. And then Greg Weissert to follow, throwing .1 innings, giving up 2 hits and 1 earned run. He's at a 2.93 ERA on the season. Whitlock is at a 3.45 ERA. And Whitlock's ERA is a bit inflated because he did have a couple outings that were really rough for him. So that kind of knocked up his number a little bit. But generally, he has been reliable for this team outside of a couple hiccups. So try not to read too much into that ERA. Then Cooper Criswell came in to pitch, who had just been recalled from the Woo Sox. He threw 1.2 innings, giving up 0 hits and 0 earned runs with 1 walk and 2 strikeouts. So obviously, outside of Giolito, the Red Sox just gave up 2 runs after that in Brennan Bernardino and Greg Weissert's parts of the outing. But what made this whole thing so frustrating was because you have a starter out there who puts a lot of pressure on your hitters to score right away. I mean, he gave up 4 runs in the first inning, and then he just continued to get pounded. And the pitching still is a concern because it leaves the offense in a really tough spot of, all right, well, it looks like we have to score a ton of runs tonight. And luckily, the Red Sox pitching staff was able to get that run support tonight with the Red Sox scoring 11 runs. But the Angels scored 9 runs. If the Red Sox score 9 runs in a game, theoretically, that should be enough to win. But the problem is it hasn't been because they always find a way to squander leads. And that was a huge example in yesterday's game. It was a back and forth affair for the entirety of the game because the Angels scored 4 runs in the top of the first inning, and then the Red Sox came storming back and scored 5 runs in the bottom of the inning. And then it just kept going back and forth to where the Angels would take the lead, and then the Red Sox would tie it again. And then they gave up the lead again to the Angels, and then they tied it again. And then obviously ended up winning this game 11-9. But it's the idea of the offense constantly having to play catch up. The Red Sox playing from behind a lot because their pitchers can't establish that sense of dominance early on in the start where they end up struggling, and then the bullpen has to come in and try to pick up the pieces. And if certain relievers don't have it and aren't on their A game, then it causes all kinds of more problems. But it truly does start with the pitching and the starting pitching in particular, because you have guys like Giolito who have been so off and on and inconsistent that when those guys are out there, if they're giving up multiple runs, it makes it really hard to come back and win that type of game. And a lot of times that would end in a loss for the Red Sox, as we have seen over the last couple nights when they lost 1-run games before heading into that series finale. And that's aggravating because it is the same pattern over and over again to where they'll either have a lead or it's a tie game and then they give it up. Then they score and tie it up again. And it's just all of this momentum shift constantly. And watching that game yesterday, I truly felt like I didn't have confidence in the Red Sox to be able to keep it a 1-run game or come back and win. And that's really sad because this team has really just scarred a lot of us this year, I think, with their underperforming and the struggles that they're going through and it not being exactly the season that we want it to be. And the pitching has been the biggest reason for that. Now, if Lucas Giolito goes out there and pitches well, the Red Sox 100% win this game with probably a lot less ugly of a score. And maybe they still go off and score 11 runs, but it wouldn't look as lopsided of a score if the Red Sox pitching threw well. So despite the fact that they won this game, obviously it's good to be excited about that. I am. Don't let it overshadow the fact that they still have pitching concerns. Now, obviously the majority of the bullpen was able to hold it down after Giolito pitched. They only gave up 2 more runs after that. But it's more the idea of the Red Sox catching up than falling behind and catching up. And if that's the mode that your team is in, where you're having to play catch up all the time, that doesn't make for a very good or healthy baseball team. And that's something that I'm keeping an eye on moving forward for this Red Sox team is how can we get these pitchers to maintain leads? How can we make sure that the starters aren't getting overwhelmed in the first couple innings with a bunch of runs being scored against them to the point where it makes it really difficult from a morale standpoint and just an overall ability standpoint for the offense to come back in a game, because there's only so much the offense can do, especially with guys like Alex Bregman not being in the lineup and Christian Campbell struggling as much as he is. It's hard to really bank on your offense putting up 11 runs every game, and that shouldn't be that way. And I'm still very much concerned about the pitching overall. Cooper Criswell actually did look a little bit better than I expected in this game, but a lot of the high leverage arms were used, and that's definitely tough. Of course, the Red Sox have an off day today, so that helps a little bit, but they used a ton of pitchers in Wednesday's game, and that doesn't really bode well for their upcoming series this weekend at Yankee Stadium. And again, if Lucas Giolito had been able to pitch deeper into the game, this wouldn't be an issue. So the Red Sox have to figure out something when it comes to the beginning of games, because obviously something's not clicking with this pitching staff early on, and it puts a lot of pressure on the bullpen and even more pressure on the offense for feeling like they have to step up and come back every time. That's just not a recipe for long-term success. So whatever Andrew Bailey is doing when it comes to working with these pitchers on their pregame routines or whatever it may be, something needs to change to get them on board with throwing better in those first couple innings so that they can stretch out the outing. So that was the biggest concern that I still had about this game, was the lack of length from Giolito, him getting absolutely shelled, and the Red Sox having to use so many pitchers to win this game. So we'll have to see what happens there, but hopefully the Red Sox do make some changes and they keep their heads on a swivel by thinking about what's best for the team moving forward. So let's hope they do. Keep the faith. Go Red Sox, and I'll catch you on the flip side.